Well, look at all these shiny, beautiful ships that X4 Foundation has to offer. With so many ships to get, how can one afford to collect them all? Credits are hard to come by, so today we'll be helping you find a cheaper way to get all those ships. It's time to strap on your big boy diapers and cork your buttocks because today we're going to be going over how to capture ships. But how, one may ask? Luckily, X4 Foundations leaves us a wide variety of options to capture ships, which are all equally annoying. The first option we're going to be going over today is the cheapest for you space hobos. All you need is a single ship loaded up with some marines, and a can-do spirit not induced by a drunken stupor. If you don't know how to get a battle-hardened, brawny, butt-kicking marine, stop by your local wharf. Once there, have them upgrade your ship, and under the crew selection add a marine or two. Now that your ship is stuffed to the brim with testosterone and bullets, head out into the depths of space and find your first victim. Now don't get too hasty there, Tiger. Choosing your target is very important. Fighting off more than you can chew can end in you becoming space dust. So I recommend finding some low-level outlaw fighters to start with. Remember how I said this process was an annoying one? Well, buckle in for a trip because here's why. See? Look, we have a few targets. Our purpose here is not to destroy these ships, but to scare them out of it. This can happen two different ways. One is by damaging the ship so badly that the pilot takes a moment to think about its life, ultimately deciding that going down in a fiery space coffin and drifting endlessly in space for all eternity is not worth it, and decides to bail out. Wait a sec. The second is to damage their ship close to destruction again, but this time coaxing them out by calming them and telling them to surrender their ship. Do this by pressing C, politely ask them to abandon their ship. Now be warned, these fine folks in X4 Foundations aren't always the most talkative bunch, so be prepared to hear this.
I'm not talking to you.
A lot.
I'm not talking. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
With some skill and a little bit of luck, you will now have an abandoned ship. Get into a good position nearby and right-click on it, bringing up the interact menu. Go down and select claim. Once you do this, your tactical marines will load into their boarding pods and zip right over, claiming it for you. Now, a quick word about boarding pods. They are made of paper mache. If someone just so happens to fart in their general direction, they obliterate. Make sure the scene is safe before launching a boarding pod. One stray shot can take out a boarding pod holding multiple marines, requiring you to write a letter to their families while you were so inept, you sent them out in a Pillsbury flaky layered biscuit package cylinder. You have been warned. Now you have claimed the ship. You're free to do with it as you please. I recommend taking the time to fix it up before you sell it at a nearby station or add it to your collection. The choice is yours. If you find the ship isn't flying, be sure to click on it and look at its information. Locate personnel and make sure you have a marine promoted to the captain of the ship. Now it should, and hopefully, will obey your righteous iron-fisted orders. Fighters are fine and dandy, but you have bigger fish to fry. Well, it seems you want to go after a large capital ship. In order to do this, you will need to have a medium-sized ship loaded up with all the marines it can fit. If you can't find a good combat-oriented medium ship, I recommend you stay in a combat-capable fighter, and have the ship loaded up with all the marines nearby for when it is needed. Now, go forth and find the capital ship worth boarding. Once you've found one, select it and scan it. You can do this by clicking F while looking at it. This is important because it'll help you know what you're up against. All this new information will pop onto the bottom right hand side of the screen. What we are particularly interested in is the crew size. This is what your blood-craven marines will have to fight through in order to claim the ship. Just know that service crew members of the enemy vessel can fight also. They may not be as well trained and equipped as the marines, but those suckers can bite, so make sure you have the proper amount of marines before you start the boarding process. Now that the scan is done, click F and select board. A menu will appear. This menu is the plan stating the multiple phases of the boarding process. First, you will see configuration on the left. Underneath this, you will see an option of what you want your ship and support ships to target while the boarding is taking place. Choose what target you want your ships to concentrate on, and select it. I suggest turrets since engines can cause issues down the road, and I'll explain this later. If you have a ship carrying all your marines that's not combat oriented, tell it to maintain distance. After this, you can now choose how many marines to send. Send as many as you want and can. The process will go quicker and have a least chance of failing. If you have a ship in your wing carrying the marines for you, the ship will launch the marines for you depending on what you choose in stage 1. Stage 1 gives you the option of when the boarding pods will launch. It's always better to choose when the ship is weak or very weak in combat effectiveness, since, boarding pods suck, and tend to evaporate even when looked at crossly. Stage 2 is telling the marines when to start breaching the ship's hull. I have found that lower the hull level, the lower chance the marines have at taking casualties. The trade-off is once the ship is taken, however, the ship will need plenty of time to be repaired. Stage 3 is confirming your settings and beginning the assault. So once you feel everything is in place, select Start Operation. The boarding crew will now inform you of the steps as the operation begins. In the bottom left-hand corner, you will be told how much destruction you must issue in order to have the boarding pods launch. Take out the turrets and if need be, disable some of the engines to prevent the ship from escaping. Please, for the love of Club Baby Seals, do not destroy all the engines. I made this mistake once and they never fix. I tried for 2 real-time hours to fix them and could could not get them to work. With my own repair laser, with service crew, and a repair drone all working on them, they never repaired. So unless EagleSoft fixes this, or I'm just an idiot, I recommend leaving at least one engine, if not all. So now you have reached the allotted needed damage and taken out the needed turrets. You will hear your Marines tell you they are launching. Make sure your boarding pods reach the enemy ship, and make sure you have damaged the ship's hull to the proper percentage. If it needs more damage, the Marines will tell you so. Now comes the fun time of waiting for your Marines to endlessly slaughter their terrified crew or be slaughtered themselves. Watch patiently as the enemy ship crew numbers dwindle. And once they reach 0, boom, the ship is yours. If you weren't a complete idiot like I was, you should still have some decent engines on the ship to get out of the area. For some reason, if the ship refuses to follow your orders, which it did for me, even with someone promoted to captain, I recommend flying over to the ship and piloting it yourself. Assign what Marines you have left to service crew, so that way they can start fixing the ship. That way if you pissed off the wrong faction, you have a functioning ship to escape in. Well, wasn't that the most funnest, most spectacular experience? Now do what you wish with the information I've given you. The process can be buggy and annoying, but all in all, the ends justify the means. These ships can be sold for a pretty penny. Just make sure you transfer the Marines back over to your ship before you do so. They are combat hardened and ready to pummel more dweebs, and if you don't want to sell it, the ship can become a pinnacle member of your fleet. The option is up to you. I hoped you learned something, and now you'll be all the wiser for knowing how to take someone else's hard-earned work. Stay safe, pilots, and remember, if it tastes like space chicken, it isn't always space chicken. Enjoy.
Just hop on out of here. No. Let's see if I can fix this engine. Come on, get around the ship. Is the ship moving? No! No, 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 no. What are you doing? Stop!